This is Calicat, the Calicatster. And new set. Yeah, so there's new set. But so this is a review of Star Trek Discovery season finale, the 80-minute long season finale of Star Trek series finale of Star Trek Discovery. Some of the Trek Guard stuff came true, some of it didn't. Some of the other guys' stuff came through, some of it didn't. And a recap overall thing. Spoilers, because spoilers. And I'm dressed appropriately in a shirt looking like a, it's like progenitor on the Q. So they're not the Q, but that'd be weird. So the basic premise plot of the story is they're trying to get the dreadnought to stop attacking them. So they come up with a plan to Captain Raynor comes up with a plan to use the spore drive on the cover the ship in the spores somehow, the deflector dish, by separating the ship from the saucer, and then using that to pull them into the spore field and phase the dreadnought out. They're under attack first for a long time. What's going on, and then they do that. So we have Burnham and Maul inside the thing, and Locke is in the pattern buffer. Maul brings Locke's corpse in there, doesn't revive him, and then she tries to interface with there's all kinds of alien. It's like the Q continuum in there, but more weird and trippy. So they do that. They do the Q continuum thing. They absolutely do that. But it's a progenitor Q continuum. This is like before the Q. These are like pre-Q, like alpha or betas or something. They're like pre-Q. This is before the Q. And they're like, they have Hurricane World and City World and Plant World and all that funky stuff. They kind of imply one of the guesses from, I believe, Trek Central and one of the other ones, the Trek list, are they the Iconians? They kind of hint that they might be. Some of them might have become the Iconians, which is fun. Not all of them, but they created the Iconians. So they do imply that they the gateways and all that. They're doing the gateway thing, the doorways thing, which isn't central to the Iconians themselves. It's a sci-fi trope. You have Stargate in the 90s did something similar. You have The Doorways of Pathways, classic sci-fi book from the 50s, did that too. Monsters Inc. did that too. So they're like, that's the wormhole of interest. You have all manner of bizarre, trippy stuff in there in the other realm. They discovered that they can't revive the dead guy a lot. So Maul tries to activate the computer screen thing, and she is injured by doing so. It doesn't help her any. But that might come out later, I don't know. And Burnham then does it the other way, uses negative space to activate the thing. And then she meets a progenitor on the other side, an alien lady, African American looking alien lady, with a long head, kind of. There's a Neanderthal, basically, or pre-Neanderthal, billions of years ago. So the whole species, the whole proto human thing in there, sort of a Q. Also, we have that going on. We also have the Saru and the Vulcan lady trying to bluff the other Primarch lady, who is just a floating head on a screen. It's a hologram. They didn't have money to show a fleet, so they didn't. So then you also have they kept hinting that Saru was going to die. Saru does not die, so that was a red herring from the very beginning. It's like, okay, they keep mentioning it over and over again. Always he's going on a mission that could kill him. It's like, then I was thinking, okay, like from the trailer, from the opening scene. No, they're not going to. And they did. So that was one of the predictions from the start. No, they didn't kill him. They also did not kill the gay guy. They did not kill Adira. And they didn't kill Adira. And they didn't. And Gray wasn't in it. They left him out. It's kind of sad that they left him out completely and did this other thing. But I can see, like, okay, about halfway through the show, they canceled the show. They said, we're not doing any more, so make the 5th season the last one. So they're like, okay, we had to add all these. That's why these other scenes that they added don't make sense, because they added them. So then we have various other accoutrements, space things. Sure. They're able to bluff. Saru is able to bluff, and the fleet flies away, and they leave a probe. So that worked. I'm just kind of going to run down, and then I'm going to go into other things. They use the spore drive thing to fold spore space on the dreadnought. Thus, the enemy ship is blasted to the edge of the galaxy, where it'll take months to get back, and they're safe. Then there's the other stuff. Cronenberg's character, the agent guy, at one point at the end. Then of course, the progenitors give him all this information. She gives her this information, and that's something they predicted in the Trek thing. It's kind of an anticlimax to have the characters basically talk to the other character and say, "I'm going to impart knowledge into you. You can be one of ours or not. Join us." That's like a cue. So they do that. So yeah. But yes, it's So yeah. Then everybody's they rescue Booker, and they're setting up this flirty thing between Booker and the Doctor. It doesn't actually go anywhere. Booker ends up staying straight because, of course, he has to stay straight and not go further. Because the other guy, the Doctor, is married to the other guy, so it'd be a little weird. It'd be weird if he like had an adulterous affair with Booker. It'd be amusing if they had a 3-way, but they didn't do that. And then they go. Burnham is given some space Jesus knowledge, and she goes out of the portal, and they rescue Maul, and they say, "Oh, we can't bring this guy back." So Maul's motivation for wanting to bring the dead guy back is gone, and Booker's shuttle rescues them, and everything back to the ship, back to the thing. Then we come to I don't know how they got back from having no spore drive anymore. But they managed somehow. Investigators regular warp drive. Then there was, Then you jump to Saru's wedding, basically. Before Saru's wedding. Oh, let's see, Saru's wedding. Okay, Saru's wedding. They have Saru's wedding. That's a little afterward. Okay, Berman goes to meet with the guy with the glasses, the agent dude, Kraychek or whatever his name is. Turns out to be Crewman Daniels from Enterprise. That was the connection. Everybody was like, how are they going to work that in? Oh, was it going to be Shatner? No, it wasn't Shatner. It's the guy that was already there. I wanted there to be a Shatner thing, but I didn't really think they were going to do that, and they didn't do that, because that would be weird. I was thinking that when they went to the Mirror Enterprise and did that, they didn't go there. And they might have had it. It wouldn't have fit. Just do that. We've done that with our stuff, but it didn't fit that with their stuff. Just because we have action figures. Yeah, so then they did, so they didn't do that. That was another thing they were trying to predict. Nobody dies. Maul is rescued, and they kind of imply that she got pregnant at some point. They're doing the Robotech ending, the Robotech Love Live Alive ending, which is also similar to the Robotech Masters ending that I misinterpreted when I was like 15. Into thinking that because Zor kisses Dana at the end and they have like a moment in space, somehow they're mating and they have a real bare eternal life, but that actually didn't happen. Because in the Japanese version, that ending was completely different. And he was just being, he was being a weirdo with the Japanese version of that story. And she smacks him immediately afterward. They cut that out. So they changed the entire tone of the moment in there, in the American one by taking the smack out. No, he wasn't supposed to do that. So in this story, there's no smacking, but lip smacking. But then we go on. They reveal crewman Daniels, and they go on the other thing. And somebody's pregnant, possibly Maul, I guess. That's kind of out of context. There's an out of context scene where the crew's all on the bridge at the end, but the out of context scene is her remembering having gone back to the bridge with their uniforms having changed. That was later. That was the twist ending. This is going to be full of spoilers. So then you have your Saru's wedding, and then that's followed by apparently the two of them, because they had to do the wedding, because we did the wedding when we visited that time period. I remember they had to do the wedding. We did that. Yeah. So they also had to do referencing that too, and the Q continuum thing, because we did a Q continuum thing. They had to kind of do that. Now they weren't necessarily Q in their version, but it's clearly what they were thinking of. Yeah, we can totally do a continuum. It'll look weird and trippy. Yeah, we get that. They did. They succeeded. So yeah. And the Starfleet Academy thing, and where does that fit in? Yeah, well, they since they had to end this version of the show, they really shouldn't make Starfleet Academy set in the 32nd century, because it's not interesting enough. They keep setting it up for one, but they really shouldn't do that. They really shouldn't. Make it in the 2400s. That's what makes sense. The 25th century, have it during Picard's time. But they're probably going to do that anyway, and no one will watch it. So they should just do one movie and get it out of their system, because they kind of already did in 2009. That was Starfleet Academy, but Enterprise, Kirk, iMac Bridge, no one will. Yeah, but yeah. So we have a yeah. So the whole the interplay of the characters doing their thing. Yeah, they jump ahead after they profess Berman and Booker profess their love for each other. They jump ahead like 30 years into the future, a little over 30 years. They have a son who's a captain in Starfleet, and they're on a planet that looks like Nibiru from Star Trek '09. They're living on the planet, and yeah, it's the pink planet, I guess, thing. It could be the moth planet. It could be that. The Nibiru planet. They have so they have the in their I don't think they call it Nibiru in the story, but it looks like that planet. They end up putting the progenitor's tech near the black hole's event horizon. Event horizons are a mathematical construct from where the edge of the hole goes in. Nothing can escape, not even light. Only Hawking radiation. Your ship would be ripped apart. It will be ripped apart and destroyed. But yeah, if it's all Q power, then sure. They'll never see it. The progenitor guy, the Daniels guy has a forge visor and a baseball and some other stuff from the Next Generation. It says that he's crewman Daniels from Enterprise, but wouldn't he have stuff from Enterprise from Archer's era? Just saying. And the whole temporal Cold War is over, and he's come home and all that. He's been a lot of things. He's crewman Daniels, Agent Daniels. So yeah, he's and now she's like, does she have space Jesus powers that alien imparted into her? I don't know. It's kind of strange. Yeah. Yeah. So there's like, and then at the end they tie it into that Calypso episode, and they have the Discovery reverse engineered and made to look like the older Discovery and put out. It's kind of messed up. Admiral Burnham goes on her last mission and takes the ship out to the edge of the thing and with Zora, and leaves the ship apparently out there to be found by the Calypso at some point. So the timeline is corrected because the ship has changed back to the way it looked. But they didn't. I thought they would have done that earlier, but maybe not. It's a generation later. She won't be around when it happens. it would have made more sense to just take them all and bring them home to their time period and century. If it was Crewman Daniels, he would have done that. So yeah, anyway, so yeah, connections to Starship locations. All right, yeah, they did the wedding scene from the Planet of the Fallen Ones. They did the Q Continuum / Preserver place from Planet of the Fallen Ones and Starship Chimera. They did referencing lots of Star Trek references. They did Infinite Diversity and Infinite Combinations. They did Needs of the Many. They did a lot of member berries. But Infinite Diversity and Infinite Combinations is interesting because the late DC Fontana wanted to think of something to sell some trinkets in the early days of Star Trek Season 2. And DC Fontana's all like the IDIC symbol, the Infinite Diversity and the IDIC symbol, and the whole thing. The beginnings of all of that, and save Star Trek. Star Trek Lives and that kind of thing. And she's an Infinite Diversity and Infinite Combination. There was also a book, Arctic Epidemic, C.G. Sherrill, I think. Yeah, but DC Fontana was one of the original Star Trek writers, and she passed in 2019 or so. And so some of the later Starship locations stuff is, including a ship. We have a DC Fontana ship that showed up in an episode 2 seasons ago on our show. The ship. So during Destinations, the DC Fontana shows up. It was referenced in the storybooks and the Chimera books and all that stuff on our Amazon books, our role-playing books. It was mentioned there years earlier, but now you get to see it. Well, that's the DC Fontana. It looks kind of like Galley Class a little bit. Yeah, it kind of does. It's more like a steam runner, though. A little different. Well, a little different. Not more like Reliant steam runner kind of clone. So more so than the Cerritos, which is slightly larger. So you have there were a couple other connections. You can catch the other member berries as well. There are definitely some moments of Zen in there with the Q-like lady from the other realm acting a bit like she was I would say she's more of a nod to Nichelle Nichols than anything. I would say like she was supposed to be. That's probably who they meant, but she died, so they're like, well, we can't actually get Nichelle Nichols. She died, so that's probably who they meant to make that character. I bet that's what they were thinking, because that's right out of Chimera as well. They're all like, it'd be really cool to have Nichelle Nichols show up in makeup and do like the thing. And realized she was in her late 80s and very sick and couldn't do it, or she would have totally done it. That would have been great. But no, it wasn't her. that would have been awesome. But we paid homage to her and Nog. Both Nog passed in 2019, and she was still alive. She was still living, but old. And we had her in the Starship Locations pilot episode in 2021, 2020. No, 2020, 2021. And in that series, the Strange Worlds pilot, she's in there. She and Captain Nog have a discussion about being in Starfleet and diversity and stuff. Because Nog's ship is named the Emmett Till. That's the one thing I took from the DS9 season 8 pilot. That was the one cool thing that I left in there with the Emmett Till. The ship in Tubman class Emmett Till A. Not the original, but the Emmett Till A, because the original was destroyed in 2019, the space battle. Or in 2396, with the original Chimera from the Chimera first movie was also destroyed during the space battle. But Nog survived, and he lives, and he goes on to illustrious career in Starfleet. Admiral Uhura was stationed on the bridge, and they go to the Tribble planet. So it's in the. If you want to see Uhura, the Uhura scene, it's not really her. It's us doing the voice. It's not her, but it's an homage to her with an action figure. They're action figures, and we were but that has nothing to do with this episode. I'm just thinking that was supposed to be Nichelle Nichols. That preserver was Nichelle Nichols. That's who that was supposed to be. That's a cat moment. But they couldn't get her, so I'm pretty sure, like 98% sure that's who that was supposed to be. She died. But that would have been great. Preserving Star Trek. And also, it goes with the theory of out of Africa as well. But if these aliens are like a million years, billions of years earlier, that doesn't apply really. It's kind of nice, but it doesn't apply. But that's fine. Yeah. And it being infinite diversity of skin color should not make any difference, or race, or religion. They're all the same species. Yeah. Anyway, so be good to each other. Anyway, so yes, the alien. The other things that were a connection was they do reference some of the member berries of the original Treks and characters, and the captain behaving more like a Kirk on the Ron Bridge thing, referencing that. They don't do any of the old crew in the story. They reference it a little bit. There's also, so they reference that a little bit. I'd say that Destinations was in production here while Discovery was being polished up. So no, it wasn't. They didn't know Destinations, so they can't really say that it was in the same ballpark. It wasn't. They had seen the Fallen Ones, and they had seen Chimera, the movie, and they were like, oh, let's do that. Yeah, they were doing that, because that makes sense. That would have been about when they were writing the story, coming up with it. The thing, they didn't do a major villain one, but they kind of did, with the Breen being these odd liqueform shapeshifter things. It makes sense they would be liqueform shapeshifter things outside of their suits, because then they could like sort of like jellyfish things or something, and then they get solid if they get into a warm atmosphere, and the suits keep them cold. That's so they actually keep them cold. They're refrigeration suits. A little DS9 tie in there, a little bit of that. That's kind of fun. Even Larry Mimichek mentioned that quite a bit. This channel, yeah, Larry Mimichek. I've been at convention once. I also met Bob Justman and Bob Justman from TNG, one of the producers. He gets up on the stage in the convention many years ago, and he goes in the '90s, and he goes, "Well, everybody asks the actors producer questions they wouldn't know, but I'm a producer, so ask me producer questions." But yeah, so I did. I've asked them, like, why did they decide that Alexander should suddenly be like super advanced in age? And the real reason for that was that they couldn't cast a 2-year-old or under, because he would have been 2. They couldn't do that. Like there's like certain risks involved with casting babies in the story, so they had to age him up like 4 or 5 and just say, oh, it's and then that snarky Klingon guy with his baby in the audience is all like, it is because we Klingons age fast, which I found amusing. Then later on they did a DS9 episode where he was only 11 years old in the cast mode, which is kind of silly. Anyway, neither here nor there. Anyway, I'm pretty much done with my review, really, because I think that kind of says everything. And even though I know there's a scammer phone call coming in, I'm not going to answer it. The other review is kind of redundant at this point. Okay. Bomb Schnipper. Yeah, on the set. I got my head stuck between the wall and the frame. There's a better background. That's actually the privacy curtain from the bathroom downstairs. Didn't need it anymore. There's a door. Which is funny. It's perfect. It covers up the set. It also throws the white balance so that it's white balance. Totally, yeah. And the shirt, the Fanime shirt, yeah, also throws the white balance. So that's pretty much what I was rambling on about seeing Rob Justman. I'm kind of done with the review. Yeah, it falls in line with whatever Chimera they were able to look at, back in 2000, probably 2023 is when they wrote this, would be my guess, season. Filmed it, actually maybe a little bit before, but 2022, 2023, and then they had to reshoot parts of it at the end of 2023, right about when we were doing Destinations, so they probably were in the Robotech thing, and the Graham and Knapp thing, which got moved to another channel. and they probably just figured, well, we don't need to copy CalCat all the time. We can do our own stuff. That's nice. Why don't they just hire me? Just hire us. We're from the TNG era. We do fan films all the time. It's just like, yeah, it never ends. The next one will likely be a Star Trek one, yes, because the last one was a Robotech one. Well, but first, I have to put that Robotech one together. That's next. Now that all this moved up to this other spot. It may look a little familiar. It is essentially the same type of place as the original Trans and Trans 2 set. I'm literally in the place where I filmed the Transformers 86 series. That's very, very similar to it. And I deliberately, yeah. We even found the old dresser. It's downstairs, but yeah, from that show. But yeah, I bring that up there too, maybe. So we have, yeah, the studio set thing. We can show that off later. Don't need to do that here. This is a review, and yeah, so sure. Star Trek Discovery, the final season, closing thoughts, recap, that kind of thing. The show was very shaky in its first season, almost unwatchable. The Klingons were weird. It was all messed up. It was a mess. The Pike stuff was better. They seemed to always want to put a male captain under Burnham in there, and Pike was interesting, so they put him back in the Enterprise and made that spin-off Strange New Worlds, which has a lot more CalCat references. But then when they finally went to the 32nd century, jumping ahead, they really should have brought them back at the end of this story. I mean, they're sending the ship into the future to be found 300 years later, about 100 years later. So in Calypso, they didn't need to do that, but they're going to. They didn't need to. They could have left it. It would have been fine. With their own canon, they had to fix that. I would have sent the crew home. I would have at least had her jump on the ship. The directive thing, but yeah, and leaving the robot out there in the middle of nowhere. It's kind of funny. The robot computer. It's kind of messed up. But did Burnham get Q powers? There's just so many questions that don't necessarily need answers, but you kind of got to answer them in the story. I liked that they were listening to the Steve Shive Show Not Tell article and put that in there. They didn't put in my version though, because I could tell because they did their own thing. But yeah, because this was a year ago when they probably finished this. So, yeah, so they didn't have less than a year. So when they finished their episode, so yeah, they needed to do a little more of it. They didn't need to have Cal show up again. That was not necessary. I would have done it. But yeah, it was another actor was playing Cal, but Sue Cal could have showed up too. They had problems with the characters even this season. At the last minute, doing the visuals and stuff, and they're reading at the end, and they're sort of like trying to force that in there that they all got together in her dream and memories and whatever. I would have at least added a little more to the end of that, but yeah, all the other stuff building up to that, and then having her just decide to put the ship out there and then go and do something else. What is that something else? And don't set it up for a sequel if it's going to be just the Academy and jump back 30 years, because you jumped 30 years into the future, more than 30 years, and made she and Booker have a son. He's a captain, and then he's going to go on to his own command. And they threw all this in there, and the actor's fine, but yeah, they're doing this episode. He absolutely has the not gaze. He's not gay. He's totally straight. He's like, girl, they wax in the coffee scene and all that. But yeah, they need to. Yeah, the shuttles are strange. Most of the ships are strange. Most of them are found objects. There's like staplers and wax cylinders and paper and cables and things like that made into ships, spray painted. They just look weird. sea floaty thing. Looks like a stapler, like a heavy like a. The nog kind of looks like a staple punch, like a big staple gun, paper hole punch thing, or possibly a nail gun, just floating on that side. Nail gun ship. So you have a bunch of goofy stuff, swapping different things. Paperclip Brad thing becomes ship engines. It's a paperclip Brad. Somebody's got a lot of stuff in their office they've been screwing around with. It wasn't Adam Savage. It was somebody else from Discovery. But yeah, they needed more punch at the end of that, and the ending that I would have done is of course I would have thrown myself into it because it would have been funny. I would have at least had a scene in there with Daniels and Holocat at the end in Berman, and she's going to take the ship out. Right after she's going to take the ship out, it's all there. This is the scene. You visualize the scene. She's taking the ship out. She puts it where it needs to be. Turns around, and Daniels is there in the realm. And there's Holocat. There he is. He's all, greetings, Captain Berman. You've had your fun spending 35 more years hanging out with the Starfleet people in the distant future, but it has affected the timeline adversely. I must send you and your entire crew, maybe not the ship, we can leave it, you and your crew, back to the 2250s. I need to do this because then the timeline will be corrected. You can keep your memories. It's just a red directive. Now, wait a minute. Q person, are you one of the progenitors? And I'll be like, no, I'm not one of the progenitors. The progenitors created us just as they created you. Because we did that cop-out earlier with the Uhura lady that was clearly supposed to be Uhura, but obviously wasn't because she died. Yes, the Uhura lady, that scene that you talked to, Nichelle. Yes, that scene there, Miss Nichols. Mrs. Nichols, yes. Yes, so know that you will be, you and your crew will be transported back to your proper timeline. Ew, and then the Q guy goes like, okay. Then she goes, well, all right. But I'm now old and stuff, and they won't recognize me. Really, 30 years later or something. Won't that affect the timeline? Yes, but book will be all right, and sun will be all right, yes. Because you'll be like a traveler. It'll be okay. You're a traveler now. So, yes, without further ado, Michael Burnham, you're going home. But about 30 years later than you left. And the entire crew, and Berman and everybody, rematerialize. It's 2290. It's about 30 years after the events of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. 3290. When they arrive at Starfleet. And they're 2290. And they're like, oh, this is weird. Where are we? And Spock walks up to them and goes, hello, sister. I've been waiting for you. Come. Oh, Spock shows up. He's like, yes. He's 2290s outfit. It's the Monster Maroon. He shows up and he goes like, greetings, sister. Live long and prosper. And she says, I have. Live long and prosper. And then it ends. Roll credits. So she and the crew return. And then you can have Tilly and everybody go, oh, but all this knowledge that I had from the distant future and all that, and well, then they go to, they won't do that. This is what I would do, and then they would go to that, and they would go to, and Tilly would go to the academy place in the 2290s, and she'd be like, she'd show up there to the academy director person, who would probably be at that point Sulu or somebody. Sulu shows up. Yes. Welcome to the academy. Oh my. Yes. Yeah. And then you have the other ones doing their thing, and then a younger version of Daniel shows up. He's like, yes, we couldn't keep you in the distant future like that. The time stream would be adversely affected. Doherty was slightly, but you did not make any permanent corrections to the timeline. I hope it was fun for you to be in the 3190s and then transported back to the 2290s. But now it is over. Then they come back to the future, and yeah, they know that Burnham disappeared, and Booker and they're on the planet, then Adira and Gray go to visit with a crew that from their timeline, Booker of course as well, the son, and say, Michael went home. Yes, she's home, back in her timeline. All of her crew just disappeared. They're back in their timeline. All of them, back where they belong. It is as it should be. Ah. And then Avery Brooks shows up. He said, yes, it is as the prophets foretold. We couldn't keep them there, you know. Then Holy Cat shows up before their son, Burnham's son. He goes up to him and Adira and Tal and passes Adira on the bridge. Adira and Gray. Ooh, and he goes, so, here is Wesley Crusher. He's a traveler, and I am also a traveler, and we would like you to join us as travelers, just as your ancestor was, Gray. Yes, and Adira. Remember that ancestor that was a traveler? Well, you get to be one too. They're all, cool. They're like, yes, let's go. Where are we going to go? And then I say, we're going to go where no one dared go before. Sounds exciting.